Hello, Alabama fans, and welcome to the BOL Recruiting Show. I'm BamaOnLine publisher Tim Watts, and with me is Andrew Bones, taking a little family vacation. Jumped into this breaking news podcast where Alabama gets his 18th commitment. It's a big one everybody's been waiting on. Bama had to fight hard for this one, Andrew.
Yeah, they sure did. Nolan Wilson, one of the top defensive line prospects in the entire country, rated number 3 defensive lineman per Rivals. So, this was a huge win for Alabama going into the state of Mississippi, getting a big time prospect who's 6'4", 250 pounds. I think his development over the course of the next couple of years is going to be key. Is he going to be a bandit playing on that outside edge? Could he potentially grow into an interior lineman? I think he's probably recruited more as a bandit right now. I think that's where they see him playing. But big win for Alabama, especially over some top schools like Miami, who made a big push towards the end.
Yeah, Miami did not make this easy. Ole Miss, Auburn, that was his other official visits. But this is a guy that had offers from across the country. We talk about this before with other guys, but relationships still matter. I don't care what anybody says. It's not just cut a check. Now, it is in some cases, but with a guy like Nolan, he has a relationship going back with Freddie Roach for years, and that certainly paid off here.
Yeah, I think so. You look at the schools that were heavily involved with him, and hearing everything that we kind of heard over the last 72 hours, it was a lot closer than what people think. And Alabama probably didn't have the biggest offer out there by a long shot. And I think the relationship aspect played a big role. Alabama was the very first school to offer Nolan a scholarship last fall. They called him on September 27th, invited him to campus for the Georgia game. Makes it to Tuscaloosa for that game. Had never heard from Alabama before then, and then all of a sudden is talking to Kalen DeBoer, Freddie Roach, Courtney Morgan, all on that very first trip. And ever since then, his recruitment really took off, but that relationship stayed the same. And I think that's what was the biggest factor in his recruitment.
And he sung Roach's praise. I mean, he said over and over the trust factor close to home. The mom was close to him. And that's the thing. A good recruiter is not just close with the player. That's easy, but it's those that's closest to him. Again, this is a guy, like you said, 6'4", over 250 pounds, ranked top 50 in the nation by On3. Also ranked top 70 national by the composite. So Bama fans, to me, they got to be a little bit happy. Every year for I don't know how many years they've wanted that defensive line unit to be hit hard, that room in recruiting, even to the fact that they forgot they signed guys like James Smith and some of those other guys. But I think they're checking off a lot of boxes this year. This is their 4th defensive line commitment. Jamarian Matthews, Mari Johnson, and J.J. Finch, Andrew, and a little bit of everything with these guys.
Yeah, I think obviously it's a deep class. Last year they only signed 2 true defensive linemen. This was going to be a big year for them on the defensive front, and they went after a lot of these guys very early. As we mentioned earlier, Nolan Wilson received an offer back in September. J.J. Finch, Mari Johnson, Jamarian Matthews, those are all guys who received offers back in January. Jamarian Matthews received an offer in October, but Mari Johnson and J.J. Finch both offered in January. And really since then, the coaching staff put the full court press on them. And, man, I know J.J. Finch is a 3-star. You go watch this film. Anybody goes to watch this film, tell me he's a 3-star. Go watch Mari Johnson. You're going to be just as impressed and think he's a top 100 type player. And those 2 guys had a lot of schools all over him. J.J. Finch, Michigan, Miami, LSU, Tennessee, Mari Johnson. Miami was trying hard to get him to come down for an official visit, as was Ole Miss and Auburn. Those are schools that were really fighting hard for these guys. Alabama was able to secure him. So credit to defensive line coach Freddie Roach. He's put together one hell of a class.
Yeah, and you talk about Matthews, Alabama. He had a lot of people after him, ranked basically top 100 in the country. He's number 101. Had a ton of guys after him. He's one that locked down his visit recently. We've seen a smorgasbord of guys doing that. Mari Johnson, he did the same thing where he had all these visits lined up, visited Alabama and shut it down. J.J. Finch went through the process. That was a heated battle, but another one where the relationships laid the groundwork. Overall, I think Alabama fans are going to be happy with this defensive line class. Thank you. Shout out. And while we've got you here and you're probably in a good mood, hopefully, do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Give us that thumbs up. Also, you can catch us on the BOL Roundtable. It has been wild with news all day. There's been news yesterday. Every day of the week, there's been news. I mean, for the last 10 days. So Alabama's been on this heater. But Andrew, again, let's talk about this heater Bama's been on. 18 commitments right now. Have a big one deciding tomorrow, and Jira Edwards have looking for a fifth 5-star in this class. What are your thoughts on this class overall and where Bama stands right now?
I think it's tremendous. I think they've really hit on key needs thus far. They didn't need a quarterback, but they got one already in Jet Tamala. Could end up getting, or excuse me, they did need a quarterback, but not necessarily a top 5 overall player in the country this year after getting Keelan Russell. So they were able to get Jet, potentially adding another one in Tatum Kawhi. But you look at the running back class, the wide receiver class. I mean, they've really hit some big needs. Getting an elite tight end in Max Sutter, defensive line, linebacker still kind of a mystery, but getting Xavier Griffin the other day, who can play inside, outside. We've talked about him being sort of a Jahad Campbell type player, and then in the secondary, you got to like what they've been able to do after last year's class with getting Jordan Edmonds, Zion Gibson, Rahel Kelly, and potentially Jira Edwards on Saturday. That would be another outstanding effort by Alabama defensive backs coach Mo Linquist, but also a big help with a guy who joined the staff back in either late January or February, Jason Jones. He's been very active in recruiting Jira Edwards throughout the process as well.
Yeah, I mean, overall, you got to like where this class was going, because it wasn't long ago Alabama just had 4 total commitments. A little bit of worry. We kind of knew what they were doing, similar formula to last year, and we've seen that. A lot of guys had visits. A lot actually went through the visit process, but I mean, it's been 2 weeks, 10 days since the official. When did it go close? Almost 2 weeks ago, it went close. So there's been a domino effect from there. One thing I like about this defensive line unit or the ones they have committed, is you don't really know where most of them project right now. They got position flexibility. They can move around on the defensive line. There was huge news yesterday to some degree with Tank Jones, who's a guy being recruited as a Wolf, but got that big body, where he cut his list to 3: Alabama, Oregon, and Texas A&M. Auburn did not make the cut, Andrew, but that's another guy they're still recruiting.
Yeah, not necessarily a major surprise that he has those 3 schools at the top of his list. I was kind of surprised that he cut it down to 3. I thought we might, the next thing we would see would be a commitment, even though he does not have a commitment date. Alabama was the final visit, but there's been a lot of chatter about Texas A&M, really putting full court press on him. I think Oregon probably going to be a little bit too far from home, but obviously Oregon's recruiting at a very high level as well. But I do think this ends up coming down between Alabama and Texas A&M. Alabama would love to keep him home. This is a guy who, as you just mentioned, has positional flexibility. He's been recruited as a Wolf. He could potentially grow into a Bandy. He's 6'4", 260 pounds right now, but he's very explosive off the edge. He had 16 sacks as a junior. Just a bigger guy, but has that juice where he can get up and go. So I think it's going to be determined once he gets to college, how his development's going to be, how much bigger he's going to get, or does he want to stay kind of at that size and be a big-time pass rusher coming off the edge?
Yeah, and let's go back to Nolan. When you look at his visit list, the first 2 things, Alabama in September and October, got him in on visits. You get a head start like that, relationship you've been building, even not so much with the offer, but having, this is where that area recruiting can come in handy, where some of these guys coming in for the long haul. But again, Alabama pulling off a big one, in my opinion. A lot of people, Roach gets that kind of weird, despite it being one of the best units in the country. Roach, there's split views on him sometimes about his recruiting efforts, but you look at the product on the field, there's a lot of good football players that are on that defensive line, and it looks like it's going to be one of the strengths of the Alabama team this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that, preseason rankings are preseason rankings, but they have, a lot of people are ranking Alabama with the number 1, number 2 defensive line unit in the country. And, a lot of those guys, there were some guys that were ranked high, like James Smith, but a lot of those guys weren't ranked high. So that's really good development right there by Freddie Roach and the defensive staff, especially changing defenses, from Nick Saban's to what they have now. So, I think that he's done a great job, but he's also done a good job on the recruiting front. I think there were some fans a couple years ago when Peter Woods ended up going to Clemson. They got on Twitter. They wanted to bash him, so they ended up just carrying the torch, and the pitchforks kind of came out.
Yeah.
All these other Alabama fans on Twitter, get rid of Roach, get rid of Roach. They were just stupid because they didn't understand what actually was going, was really going on. Freddie's done a great job, and he gets a lot of credit, from the coaching staff within the program, and has for the last several years.
Well, Andrew Bone, we're going to let you get back to your surfing. We know your shirt has to come off. Sun's out, tarp's off. We're going to let you get back to that beach. But we appreciate everybody from jumping in, watching the show. We know your time is valuable, as is ours. We appreciate it. Hit us with that thumbs up and the like. And you can check us out at the round table where we're heading right now. Andrew, get us out of here.
Yeah, thanks for following. We got a lot of great content regarding Nolan Wilson's decision. So go check us out. And as Tim said, I got another big decision tomorrow with Jira Edwards announcing his commitment. I think that's around that 2 p.m.
He's changed it multiple times. The last check, I think it was 3 p.m. Central. It's changed. Okay. These are, like said Morgan, they're a moving target right now, these dates, trying to get everybody on. But thank you all for being here, and we'll see you soon on the BOL Recruiting Show and Roundtable.